Hi there, and welcome to Out There, an Unexplained podcast. I'm your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor, and on the last day of each month, we come out with a new episode focused on an unexplained event or phenomena that I find interesting or just downright unexplainable. Make sure you follow the podcast on Instagram about Out There Unexplained to check out the posts I make for each episode and maybe send some suggestions you'd like to hear. So, I know we were supposed to be finishing up where we left off on the Jack the Ripper episode this month, or better yet, last month. But things have been hectic here at Out There as we prepare for next year, so we are going to leave that for another time. Instead, we're going to do something that both the other shows have done before. Today, we are doing a Reddit episode, and we are talking about glitches in the Matrix. Let's dive in. The first story is from user MildOrWild65. I was 13, living on a USAF base in Misawa, Japan. This was 1978. The world was a lot smaller then. I'm in the base exchange, BX, basically a department store for the military. I hear my full name paged. I have a common first name, but my last name, not so much. The page requests that I go to the customer service desk for a phone call. I'm 13. I head straight to it. I get there and, after a moment, a woman behind the counter acknowledges my presence. I tell her I'm, insert full name, here to take the phone call. She looks confused, then points over to a young guy in a Navy uniform and says, but that's also full name. I'm nonplussed and wait until he finishes the call before he can walk away. I ask if his name is really my name. It is. And I tell him it's mine too. We shared a bemused moment during which we determine there is no relationship at all. I go back to my shopping. Head to checkout. On military bases, you have to show ID to prove you're eligible to shop. I show my dependent ID card to the old man, late 60s maybe. He looks closely at it and then says, "Last name, huh? That's not a very common name." I agree, and then he says, "Do you know Pearl?" Once again, I'm nonplussed and tell him that's my grandfather. Pearl being even way more uncommon as a man's name than my last name is. He then asks, "How's Crook doing these days?" Crook being a nickname of my grandpa's due to a poorly healed broken arm. All I can do is say that he's doing okay. Turns out that man went to high school together with my grandpa in a very, very small southern Illinois town. The whole thing, the sailor, grandpa's schoolmate, the unlikely remote location, just had me questioning reality for days. Now I know that Matrix glitched. LOL. How small was the town, you ask? Some 20 plus years later, during a family reunion, my dad took me to his old high school. The hallways were lined with alumni photos, up until about 1980 or so. Every single one of my dad's siblings were on that wall. Now, this story is just so weird. Like, sure, it's not odd that sometimes you run into somebody with the same first or last name as you. And for some, it could be very common. But to run into someone with the same first and last name as you, in the same place, being paged to a desk for a phone call, is so crazy. Especially with a very uncommon name, as this user suggested. This next story is from user BusinessWeb9223. If we're going to include dreams, mine will take a good slice of the cake. I've always had vivid, weird dreams, déjà vu, reoccurring dreams that seem to point to a random future event in my life. But this was different. When I was about 12 years old, I had a dream of being in a white room, completely empty besides two white couches facing each other, about 8 feet apart. I was sitting in one. There was a boy my age sitting in the other. We both looked confused, asking who the other was and why they were in our dream. We ended up hitting it off, having a generally short conversation and saying goodbye, never moving from our seats. Woke up, thought it was weird, but after a while, I forgot about the whole thing. Then 4 years later, I fall asleep one night to find myself in that same white room. I immediately recognized the room, the couches, and the now 16-year-old boy that sat in front of me. Both of us looked at each other, then began to cry. I told him that I can't believe how much he's grown. He says the same to me. We catch up on random life events like old friends and about this crazy connection we have and how weird it is. We end up getting up out of the couches to embrace each other. It was such a heartfelt hug. I told him I don't think we'll see each other again after this. He agreed, so we just hugged for a while, cried, wished each other luck, and eventually sat back down on the couches to awaken the next day. Now I'm 21, and I still remember these dreams vividly, although his face sadly fades from my memory. I think about it sometimes and wonder if I'll ever meet my dream mate in the real world. Now, I have no explanation for this. It's such a crazy story that I don't think I could even comprehend the answer if I was told. Maybe it has something to do with connected souls or reincarnation, but I really don't know. The next story comes from user JustGotCoded360. The herringbone pattern. I've been dreaming for a very long time about a lot of disconnected and strange things. A prominent feature was always this pattern. One day I had walked into a store and tried on one of the shirts. It happened to have a herringbone pattern on it. It was a little weird, but then I went to have lunch with my dad that day. He was really proud of a new watch he got. It was an Omega Railmaster or something. The strap was in herringbone. This startled me a bit, so I went into the bathroom to use the urinal. As I put my hand on the wall, I noticed it was a blue herringbone tile all over the walls. I accidentally splashed myself with water when I saw it. I was just seeing it everywhere. The dreams weren't bothering me as much after a while and sometimes passed. A couple of months later, I went on vacation to Italy with my girlfriend at the time, and we visited some museums. The first was in Torino, and they had a big cloth that supposedly Christ was buried in. Then I see something weird about it. I get a closer look at the glass display, and I can't believe it. It's in herringbone. Right then and there, I bolted, and my girlfriend got pretty pissed at me for abandoning her. I don't know what this pattern means, but it really does a number on my brain. I eventually looked into it, and I realized that my family all wore something with herringbone on it. I guess it had something to do with my grandfather, who was a very well-known and respected in my hometown. But he was really strange. I've seen photos of him. He always wore a long coat that had a herringbone pattern on it prominently. He would be usually standing with someone important from back in the day at events in these photos. It was getting a bit colder. I went into my winter closet to get some stuff out to wear. To my surprise, I found a really expensive silk scarf in rich gray herringbone that I inherited when my grandfather passed away. I put it on and it felt right. It gave me a sense of pride. Maybe it's a sign or just a big fat coincidence. Or it's just an optical glitch in the Matrix. This story is a really interesting example of what is called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, which is described as a cognitive bias in which people notice a specific concept, word, or product more frequently after recently becoming aware of it. Like, say, you see a certain car, or maybe an ad for a certain movie, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And then you go about your day, but then you start to notice more and more of the same car, or that same ad. And you begin to think, hey, now, this is getting a little weird, and now you're constantly looking for these objects, whether you know it or not. And the reason behind this seems to be selective attention. Selective attention refers to the process of selecting and focusing on selective objects while ignoring distractions. This means that people have the unconscious cognitive ability to filter for what they're focusing on. The next story was posted by Cloud Heavens. A couple days ago, I had a frightening experience, which I'm going to share with you. I went to bed like normal, and I had a dream. The dream started with me waking up out of my bed as normal, and going downstairs. My mother also came down as usual. However, my sister never left her room, which isn't common for her to do this, as she always comes down in the morning. I suspected nothing of it, thinking she had just slept in. After a while had passed, there was still no sign of her. I headed upstairs and go inside her room, only to find out she passed out on the floor. I immediately call my mother, who takes my sister to the hospital, who told she had a heart attack. That was my dream. I woke up frantically thinking my sister had a cardiac arrest, only to realize it didn't actually happen. Continuing my day, I go downstairs. As usual, my mother comes down. But not my sister. I remember my dream and get anxious and want to wake her up. But I didn't because I didn't want to wake my sister over a silly dream. After a while passes though, I get worried. So I decided to go up there only to find her unconscious. I call my mother immediately and we take her to the hospital. I try explaining to my mother about my dream and how I have already seen this happen, but she doesn't believe me. We get to the hospital and they tell us she had a heart attack. She turned out to be okay, but I can't stop thinking about it. Did I predict the future? This story is an example of a really well-known phenomenon known as a premonition. And this is defined as a strong feeling that something is about to happen, especially something unpleasant. These events can be anything from someone you know getting hurt, going missing, or even dying. A really awesome movie that depicts this phenomenon is the 2007 movie Premonition, starring Sandra Bullock. It's a really good story, and I wouldn't want to give it away any of the plot points, but if you find this kind of thing interesting, you should definitely give it a watch. This next story was uploaded by a user, Tell You What. An ex and I were once driving from two small towns in western Nebraska that were a 45-minute drive from each other. We made that trip multiple times. You could predict your own arrival down to the minute. It was between the range of 45 and 47 minutes each time. I passed this same stretch for nearly 2 years every time I went home during breaks in college. Well, one night he and I decided to go see a movie and drove to Scottsbluff. We drove out and even put in our names online for a restaurant check-in, 45 minutes from departure. We had the dinner, saw our movie, and drove back in the dark, in the middle of nowhere. We pulled into the driveway and we both pause and say something to the extent of, "That felt really fast," at the same time. We made the drive in 25 minutes, and neither of us could figure out where the extra time came from. We had also been zoned out the entire time and couldn't recall the drive in detail. Now, here's a scenario that I myself have found myself in once before, so I'll give y'all a little story of my own. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so there isn't much around, but what there is near me is a casino. And this casino is roughly 30 minutes away from my house, so I go there every so often since it's pretty close. One night after leaving this casino, I was driving home, and I took the same route I took to get out there since it's really only one road to and from there. I wasn't speeding or anything, and as I parked in my driveway and looked down at my phone and checked the time, only about 15 minutes had passed, and I sat there very, very confused at how I somehow managed to do a 30-minute drive in under 20. Still to this day, I'm not sure what exactly happened, and I don't think I'll ever know. This next story was posted by user Know You're Right. My current girlfriend had moved to a new city. Let's call this city N. I lived in city V. Once I rode my bike to this city we'll call C. Saw this beautiful girl. The one time shopping in city we'll call S. I saw another beautiful girl. Of a very specific type of girl I'm attracted to. And all these sightings are years apart, and the cities are maybe 20 to 40 miles from each other. So we're in the same area. Anyway, I moved to City N and meet my girlfriend. It was so weird. We're giving each other the stink eye, it seems sometimes, till I ask her, "Have we met before? Because I saw you once in City C." She tells me she saw me shopping in City S. And so it was not really a glitch, but yes, very interesting. It felt like something was pulling us together. I have a very unique appearance as well, as my mom is Japanese and my dad is Mexican/French. So every time we meet, we both felt we've seen each other before. Now, this is a very textbook occurrence of soulmates being pulled together by the forces of the universe. And I find this kind of stuff super fascinating. Because it's crazy to think that out there could be the person you are meant to be with. And you could have just passed them on the street or at a store randomly and not even known it. And then sometime down the line, fate brings you guys back together. Now, our last story was posted by user This is Goofy ASF. It was August 2021, and me and my friends were planning to go to the mall. My friend picked me up and was explaining how our other friend didn't answer the door. I tell her to go back to our other friend's house and that we can go in together to see what's up. The door was unlocked, so we go in. I've been there many times before, so I obviously recognize it straight away. We check in every single room downstairs. Nothing. No one. We call out her name over and over again and knock on the walls. I go upstairs alone and go into her brother's room. Gone. I check the bathroom. No one. We go to her room. The room was clean. The LED lights were purple. Her TV said no signal, and her cat was lying on her made bed. I sit down on her bed, confused as hell. I started petting her cat and look around. Whatever, fine. She probably left and forgot she had plans. I go back to the car, and we pick up for the rest of our friends and make our way to the mall. We've been shopping for about an hour when we get spammed with messages. When I called her and explained everything, she says stuff like, my TV was playing YouTube the whole night. My LED lights were never on. My mom and brother were sleeping in their rooms. Did you even go to the right house? How could you have sat on my bed and pet my cat if I was laying there? What the hell? Me and my friends still have no clue how on earth we went to her house and no one was there. But she says everything opposite of what we saw. Sometimes we joke that we went into a different reality when we entered her house. It still freaks all of us out when we think about it. Now, this is just straight up wild. Like, how can you even begin to explain this? The main group says that they were at the friend's house, but very slight details were different. And the friend even said they were home, and they would have saw them. So, could they have possibly phased into another reality for a short time while they were in the house, and then as they left, they came back into the main one? There are so many possibilities here. These stories really bring to light the weird quirks of our universe and make us stop and question if the world around us is actually real or just some elaborate simulation. And as you ponder these stories, I want you to remember, in the ever-expanding and tangled web of life, there is always a lot of unknowns. It makes you think, will we someday find out what is really out there? We are on Instagram @OutThereUnexplained, so make sure to follow us and tell us all of your thoughts on the cases we cover and what you'd like to hear next. Also, while you are there, check out the link tree in our bio to check out all the other forms of social media we have, such as the new Discord server, and any other things we have going on there. Make sure to rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It's a great way for others to find the podcast and enjoy, just like you. Head over to our Instagram and let the clues be your guide to find out where the web of the unknown will take us next. This episode was written and hosted by me, Trevor, with logo design by Jason Zykes and theme music from purpleplanet.com.